My name's Terry Choyce, and I live in Bedford, Nova Scotia. I've been in Nova Scotia for 40 years, spent 26 years at Lawrencetown Beach. And before that, hey, I was born in New Jersey and grew up there and went to university there. And my ex-husband was a surfer and a college professor. So that's why we moved to Lawrencetown Beach for the best waves on the East Coast of North America. So we divorced 16 years ago, and I've launched a whole new version of myself, shall we say, in the last 16 years. And it's been a journey of self-discovery, first of all, and then discovery of the potentiality of all of the people around me. If I was to say what was the purpose of my life, it is to communicate, to create relationships. So I'm very much a people person. And so that's what basically I've been doing my whole life, but intentionally and with awareness. I've been doing it big time for the last 16 years or so. And there's many different ways that I create these relationships and I communicate. Right now, I am retired, so-called retired, but I do a whole lot of volunteer work and am very involved in the community here in Bedford. I host a radio show on the Dalhousie station called CKDU. I've been doing that for 19 years, actually. It's a show called Interconnection, and it's on Mondays from 3 to 5. And yeah, I've just been exploring my passions and all that I love, and really trying to be at oneness with myself and oneness with all around me. So I'm not sure what else you want to know. I have 2 daughters. Sunyata is running a humanitarian organization called Project Colors, and she does a lot of her work here in Nova Scotia, raising money. And then every winter she goes to a foreign country. Usually it's South Africa or Sri Lanka, Mexico, Costa Rica, Madagascar, different places around the world where she creates, I shouldn't say, she helps out projects that are already existing and fundraises here at home, and then helps people in foreign countries do what they do best. And then my youngest daughter has chosen to be a phenomenal mom. And so I have a 11-year-old grandson, and I have 2 baby twin granddaughters that are 14 months. Yeah, so that's been a really unexpected pleasure in my life to have these 2 little girls. Well, when I was married, I was very active with my husband's life, shall we say. I did everything that I could to facilitate his career and basically live the life that he wanted to live, which was a great life. I'm not complaining or saying anything bad, but it wasn't who I am. It was out in the country, and I'm not particularly a country person. And there was just a lot of things about that life that really didn't suit me. But I was married for 32 years, so it was a wonderful time, and it was a trying time, and we raised the 2 girls, and I had been unhappy for many of those years, but I wouldn't leave until the girls were ready for me to go. I mean, my big responsibility, I felt, was as a mother, and so finally it was my time, and my mother had just passed away, and I did some really heavy duty reflection over what I wanted in my life and who I really was, and I knew that I couldn't stay where I in that marriage any longer. So I did try to the best as to my ability to rescue the marriage, but it takes two to tango, and so I ended up leaving, which was the hardest thing that I've ever done. It was extremely difficult, even though I was the one that initiated it. It was extremely difficult to leave, but I have absolutely zero regrets over having done that. And then I started to reinvent myself. And one of the things that I did first was to start teaching adult education courses. And for ever since I was 15, I was keeping a journal. And I went to the Halifax library system and asked if I could teach a journal writing course, which I did. And it was incredibly successful. And I ended up teaching journal writing all over the province at different libraries. And from that, I met extraordinary women. And there were a lot of women that were like me in that, they were late 40s, early 50s, and really not sure who they were anymore. They didn't know what made them happy, and they didn't know how to feel fulfilled again. Most of us had our children's were launched, and we were feeling rather dead-ended in our lives. So my friend Leslie Roundtree and I started a course called Circle of Women. And we did this for quite a few years, and there would be 12 women in each 6-week program. And we talked about, very intensively, and this was the confidentiality group, about who we were, who we wanted to be, what we loved, and why didn't we do what we loved. And there were various components of this course, one of which was creativity. And so I did the Circle of Women for many years, and then that branched into Women Awake, Fabulous Females, Women with Wings. So just kind of, because people kept wanting more and more different content. And so I did that for quite a while. And then building on the fact that there was so much creativity out there, women just, on our creativity day, everybody was supposed to bring something, and the phenomenal art that would be coming in, which normally was under somebody's bed or in their attic, or sitting in a room on a wall that nobody ever went into. And so I decided that women, and more specifically, really needed a venue in Halifax to show their work. So I was really, really fortunate to hook up with Pauline Raven, who at that time was the woman in charge of the YWCA on Barrington Street. It was a great, big, beautiful building. And she finagled around, got me permission to start an art gallery in the ballroom. So there was a huge room with marble fireplace and chandeliers and parquet flooring, and huge space. And so for 5 years, I ran Your Woman's Creative Art Gallery, which featured, usually I had, I'd say 6, sometimes as many as 20 artists. They were thematically created. And there was always like one big name artist that would be like the draw, like someone like Regina Kupar would be the draw. And then everybody else would be people who basically had never shown their work before. And the YWCA got 20% of sales, and then the artists would get the rest. So I did that until the building was torn down, which was actually a necessary thing, because it is like the YWCA now is phenomenal because they have all these satellite programs all over, and they're able to do a lot more now than they could when they were basically funding a building. And so I did that, and while I was doing that, and teaching the women's courses. I was also on the Women's Theater and Creativity Center board, and creating lots of different courses to people. Mostly women went, but occasionally a man. And I also taught courses through that. The one that I enjoyed the most was writing a joyful autobiography. So this was a process, again, 6-week course. We're going back into your life and remembering just the good things, just writing your happiest stories. And there was different techniques that I would use to help people remember. Like in class, we would color with crayons, and we'd eat Jell-O and play with, Play-Doh and silly putty, and just things that, to help bring out memories. And, played music from the 50s and the 60s, so anyway, I did that for quite a few years. And then while I was doing that, I was also chaplain of the Unitarian Church in Halifax. So I did lots and lots of weddings. I did about, probably 50 weddings, 50 or 60 funerals. So, and also occasionally I did a church service. So the chaplain at the Unitarian is an officiate position. It's not like the minister position. It's primarily, there's a lot of demand for weddings at the Unitarian Church because people of lots of different belief systems can go to the Unitarian. For instance, someone who was of a Jewish tradition wants to marry someone who's Catholic, well, they can happily do it at the Unitarian Church, right? And so, so I did that for 6 years, which was as long as they allow someone to be chaplain at the Unitarian Church. And then, oh goodness, I'll backtrack a little bit on another one of the things that I did over the many, many years. My ex-husband and I ran a publishing company, and so I was a book editor. I also ran a preschool for 23 years when I was married. And so I edited a book by Reverend David Hart, who was the minister at Bedford United Church. And he and I became and still are really, really good friends. And so I was in his office one day after my chaplain gig was over, and he got a call from Brunswick Street United Church. And they needed somebody to fill in that Sunday. It was in August. It was the first Sunday in August. And he said, I have somebody right here. So I went and did that, and I was there every Sunday for 5 years. So, and that's with, I had at that point no theological training. All I had behind me was a training to be a early childhood educator. And so then I went to Atlantic School of Theology so I would look legitimate while I was ministering at Brunswick Street United. And that is, it's a small church, but it's in the biggest mission in Atlantic Canada. And so there was a huge amount of outreach. A lot of the population has addiction problems, mental health issues, a lot of poverty. So I felt like I was a minister / social worker / counselor. So it was like, for me, it was really diving into the deep end with things that I really wasn't trained to do, but I just had the confidence to do. So I did that for 5 years, and then I moved on to Bedford United Church. David Hart became ill, and so I went and started to help out there. And I decided that there's just so much that I wanted to do that I couldn't have a job, basically. And so I took early retirement when I was 60. And so the last 7 years, I've really been able to do lots of things. I just have an amazing amount of freedom. and fortunate enough to be financially comfortable enough to really, live my dreams. I started out this whole talk with saying my purpose in life, like who am I, right? And a lot of people never give themselves that opportunity to say, who am I, other than I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a bank teller, I'm all of these, things that we know. But what are you underneath all that? Like, what is your main motivator? Are you a creative person? Are you I'm a people person? Are you a nature person? Like, what is it at your core? You can be, a very spiritual person. There's just so many different aspects that you can kind of identify. And then once you focus in on who you are, then there's so many ways, especially with the internet now, there's so many ways that you can find to grow who you are. You can do it through books, through courses, through finding support groups, whatever way. Now, that doesn't mean that you stop being a mother and you stop being a wife and you stop being a bank teller. But while you're doing these things that are essential to your financial well-being and emotional well-being, you're doing this exploration as to who you are and what is really important to you. And so you kind of, I always say, you get your spirit back, right? Because a lot of us in our late 40s and our 50s, we feel like deflated balloons, and so we need to really, get rejuvenated again, get excited about life again. And sometimes that means making, radical changes. For me, it meant, that I had to get out of a 32-year marriage. For other people, it might mean they have to leave their job. For other people, it might mean that they need to find a new house, that they're a country person and here they are in the middle of the city, that there's something that you need to make, a change. And as we're all afraid of change. But sometimes, we really have to shake the boat a little bit. Not always a lot, I would never, ever, ever tell anybody that they have to leave their husband in order to be happy again. I would never say anything like that. But you have to find a way to blend who you are with your lifestyle and, what you need to do in the world to survive. So basically, I'm like a pep talk person, and like one of the things that I've morphed into is I manage Facebook pages for 8 different nonprofit organizations. So I call it my internet ministry. So I can, send out every single day messages of love and hope and beautiful images. Oh my goodness, I have such a wealth of beautiful, amazing images, and just things of inspiration. So so I love doing it. I spend 2 hours a day, and I don't know. I kind of touch at least the visual mechanisms of 1,000 to 2,000 people a day, and so it's just a way that I can reach out from my own home. But it doesn't have the depth of the one-on-one communication, right? I'm not dismissing it as being useless, because I get lots of feedback from people saying, it's exactly what I wanted to hear, or you made my day, or that kind of stuff. But it's just skimming the surface of because we are emotional / spiritual beings, right? And so we need that connection. That I'm very involved with, it's called Humanities Team Canada, and it is that it can be Googled Humanities, that's apostrophe YS Team Canada, or just Humanities Team. It's an international organization, and it promotes oneness, and it really promotes sustainability, and it promotes us honoring our spiritual connection. So I'm not a religious person, even though I'm affiliated with churches and have been affiliated for all of my life. I consider myself a very spiritual person, and I truly believe that, you know, that I am a soul that's having a human experience, and so that, you know, that everything is much more large and loving than what we see in our day-to-day existence, you know. And I try to keep all that into perspective when, you know, things don't go right in my life, that I can, I try to look at it from the larger picture rather than the minute, you know, the anger or the discontent or, you know, the negativity that we can get into, you know, to look at things from a perspective of oneness and wholeness and love. It just makes a huge, huge difference. And probably the biggest, if I would wanted to say, like, the biggest secret to anybody's happiness is gratitude. If you can just figure out how every single day, every single day, sometimes many times a day, to find the small little tiny things to be grateful for, what a difference that makes in your whole attitude and your whole approach and your whole interactions, because you stop seeing your life full of lack and you start seeing your life full of blessings. I started off with Oprah many years ago when she was talking about the gratitude journals, and it's really made a gigantic difference in my life and in my, like I'd say, I'm a pretty optimistic, positive person, and I wasn't always. You know, for many years, especially through my 40s, I was depressed and felt blank, like I just felt blank. And now I feel, you know, at 67, I feel like young and rejuvenated. Yeah, and I do Pilates and I do Zumba and I run exercise classes, and I'm just, yeah. Yeah, there's just like, there's so much to do. There's just so many opportunities to see beauty and to see joy and to feel connection. Yeah, to feel the warmth, the tenderness. And I forgot to mention my wonderful partner, Robert, because he's a big part of it too.